the complete story of the Holy Quran as you have never seen it. Chapter 1. Creation and the First Human Beings. In the beginning there was nothing but Allah, the eternal Creator. Out of His infinite wisdom and power, He willed the creation of the heavens and the earth. With a mere command, the universe came into existence, filled with celestial bodies, stars, planets, and all the wonders of the cosmos. The earth was shaped and made a dwelling place, teeming with life of all kinds, plants, animals, and the natural world, each created with precision and balance, reflecting the meticulous artistry of Allah. Allah then decided to create a being unlike any other, one who would be His vicegerent on earth. From the clay of the earth, He fashioned the first human being, Adam. Allah breathed into Adam His spirit, making him a living, conscious being with the capacity for reason, speech, and moral understanding. To honor this creation, Allah commanded the angels to bow to Adam. All the angels obeyed, showing their submission to Allah's command except for Iblis, Satan, who was filled with pride and arrogance. Iblis refused to bow, arguing that he was superior to Adam, having been created from smokeless fire while Adam was made from clay. For his disobedience, Iblis was cast out of paradise, but he vowed to lead Adam and his descendants astray. Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden, a beautiful and tranquil place filled with everything he could ever need. He was joined by Hawa, Eve, who was created from Adam to be his companion. They were given freedom to enjoy all the delights of the garden except for one specific tree. Allah warned them not to eat from this tree, but Iblis, in his envy and spite, sought to deceive them. He whispered to Adam and Hawa, suggesting that eating from the forbidden tree would grant them eternal life and a kingdom that never decays. Tempted by Iblis's deceitful words, Adam and Hawa ate from the tree. Immediately their innocence was lost, and they became aware of their nakedness. In shame, they covered themselves with leaves. Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, addressed them, making them aware of their transgression. Though they had disobeyed, Allah's mercy was greater than His wrath. He forgave them, but as a consequence of their actions, they were sent down to earth to live. This marked the beginning of human life on earth, where Adam and Hawa would have to toil and strive, learning to live by Allah's guidance. On earth, Adam and Hawa started their life anew, learning to cultivate the land, build shelter, and raise a family. They had many children who spread across the earth, forming the early human societies. Adam, being the first prophet, taught his children about Allah, instilling in them the principles of faith, worship, and righteous living. Despite his guidance, human beings endowed with free will often strayed from the path of righteousness. Chapter 2. Early Prophets and Their Struggles. As humanity expanded, diverging across the earth, they began to develop their own cultures and ways of life. With the passage of time, many forgot the teachings of Adam and fell into idolatry and sin. To guide humanity back to the path of righteousness, Allah sent a succession of prophets, each tasked with reminding their communities of the oneness of Allah and the importance of living a life in accordance with His will. One of the earliest prophets after Adam was Noah. He was sent to a people who had become deeply entrenched in idol worship and moral corruption. For many years, Noah called his people to return to the worship of Allah alone, to abandon their idols, and to lead lives of piety and justice. Despite his persistent efforts, his message was met with ridicule and rejection. Only a small group of people heeded his call and believed in the message of monotheism he preached. Seeing the intransigence and wickedness of Noah's people, Allah decided to send a great flood to cleanse the earth of corruption. He instructed Noah to build a large ark and to gather in it pairs of every species of animal, as well as his family and the few believers. When the appointed time came, torrential rains poured from the sky, and water gushed forth from the earth, submerging everything. The unbelievers scoffed until the flood waters overwhelmed them, and they realized too late the truth of Noah's warnings. The ark, carrying Noah and the faithful, sailed upon the waters for many days until the flood subsided, and it came to rest upon Mount Judy. The survivors disembarked to begin a new chapter of human existence, grounded in the worship of Allah and the lessons learned from the great deluge. Among Noah's descendants was Ibrahim, a prophet known for his unwavering faith and his pivotal role in establishing monotheism. Abraham's journey of faith began in a land dominated by idol worship. His father, Azar, was a sculptor of idols, but Abraham, guided by divine insight, recognized the folly of worshiping creations of human hands. He called upon his people to forsake their idols and to turn to the worship of the one true God. His father and the townspeople, however, rejected his message and threatened him with violence. In a dramatic confrontation, Abraham destroyed the idols in the temple, leaving only the largest one intact. When the people demanded an explanation, he pointed to the largest idol, suggesting it must have destroyed the others. This challenge exposed the absurdity of their idol worship, as the people knew the idols could not act. Enraged, they cast Abraham into a blazing fire, but Allah protected him, and he emerged unscathed. This miracle further affirmed his prophethood and the power of Allah. Abraham's life was marked by a series of divine tests, each demonstrating his steadfast faith. One of the most significant tests was when Allah commanded him to sacrifice his beloved son, Ismail. Both father and son submitted to Allah's will, and as Abraham prepared to carry out the command, Allah intervened, providing a ram to be sacrificed in Ishmael's place. This event, commemorated annually during the festival of Eid al-Adha, symbolizes ultimate submission to Allah's will and the mercy of divine intervention. Abraham's legacy extended through his progeny, with his sons Ishmael and Isaac, Ishaq, becoming prominent figures in their own right. Ishmael settled in the Arabian Peninsula, and his descendants formed the tribes that would later give rise to the Arab people. Abraham and Ishmael together built the Kaaba in Mecca, establishing it as a center for the worship of Allah. Isaac, on the other hand, fathered a line of prophets that included Jacob, Yaqub, and Joseph, Yusuf, continuing the mission of guiding humanity. Joseph, the son of Jacob, faced his own trials. Favored by his father, Joseph's brothers became envious and plotted against him, eventually selling him into slavery in Egypt. Despite his misfortune, Joseph remained devout and was blessed with the ability to interpret dreams. His interpretations gained him favor with the Pharaoh, eventually leading to his rise to a position of great authority. During a severe famine, Joseph's foresight and planning saved Egypt and his own family, leading to their reconciliation and the reunification of the Israelites in Egypt. The prophets of this early period were central to shaping the moral and spiritual fabric of human society. Each faced immense challenges and opposition, yet their unwavering commitment to Allah's message and their exemplary conduct left an indelible mark on history. Their stories, preserved in the Quran, serve as timeless reminders of the power of faith, the importance of perseverance, and the enduring mercy of Allah. Chapter 3: Moses and the Exodus. The story of Moses, Musa, begins in ancient Egypt, a land ruled by a pharaoh who oppressed the Israelites, forcing them into harsh slavery. Fearing their growing numbers, the Pharaoh decreed that all newborn Hebrew boys be killed. In this perilous time, a baby boy named Moses was born. His mother, desperate to save him, placed him in a basket and set it adrift on the Nile River, trusting in Allah's protection. The basket floated to the palace of the Pharaoh, where it was discovered by the Pharaoh's wife, who, moved by compassion, decided to adopt the baby and raise him as her own son. Thus, Moses grew up in the heart of Egyptian power, unaware of his true heritage. As Moses matured, he became aware of the suffering of his people. One day he saw an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating a Hebrew slave. In a moment of anger, Moses intervened and killed the Egyptian. Fearing retribution, he fled Egypt and settled in the land of Midian. There, he married Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, and lived as a shepherd for many years. One day, while tending his flock near Mount Sinai, Moses witnessed a miraculous sight, a bush that burned but was not consumed by the flames. Approaching the bush, he heard the voice of Allah calling him to remove his sandals, for he was on holy ground. Allah revealed himself to Moses, appointing him as a prophet and commanding him to return to Egypt to free the Israelites from bondage. Despite his initial hesitation, citing his lack of eloquence and fear of rejection, Allah reassured Moses and granted him his brother Harun, as a spokesperson. Armed with divine signs and miracles, Moses returned to Egypt and confronted the Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Israelites. To demonstrate Allah's power, Moses performed a series of miracles. His staff turned into a serpent, his hand became leprous and then was healed, and he turned the Nile's water into blood. Despite these signs, the Pharaoh remained obstinate, and his heart hardened further. In response to the Pharaoh's defiance, Allah sent a series of devastating plagues upon Egypt. Each plague was a sign of Allah's power and a warning to the Pharaoh to relent. The plagues included infestations of frogs, lice and locusts, swarms of flies, the death of livestock, painful boils, devastating hailstorms, darkness covering the land, and finally, the death of the firstborn in every Egyptian household. The last plague broke the Pharaoh's resistance, and he finally allowed the Israelites to leave. The exodus of the Israelites from Egypt was a monumental event, marked by miraculous occurrences. As they fled, the Pharaoh changed his mind and pursued them with his army. Trapped between the advancing Egyptians and the Red Sea, the Israelites despaired. However, Allah commanded Moses to strike the sea with his staff, and the waters parted, creating a dry path for the Israelites to cross. Once they reached the other side, the waters returned, drowning the Pharaoh and his army. This miraculous deliverance cemented Moses' leadership and the Israelites' faith in Allah's power and mercy. After their escape, the Israelites faced numerous challenges in the wilderness. Despite witnessing Allah's miracles, they frequently doubted and complained, longing for the comforts of Egypt. At Mount Sinai, Allah made a covenant with the Israelites, giving them the 10 Commandments through Moses. These commandments provided a moral and legal framework for the Israelites, emphasizing the worship of Allah alone, the sanctity of life, and ethical conduct. However, while Moses was on the mountain receiving the commandments, the Israelites succumbed to impatience and fashioned a golden calf to worship. This act of idolatry incurred Allah's wrath, and Moses, descending from the mountain, was furious. He shattered the tablets of the commandments and destroyed the idol. Allah forgave the Israelites but imposed a period of wandering in the desert as a test of their faith and obedience. During their journey, Moses continued to lead the Israelites, providing guidance and settling disputes. Allah provided for their needs, sending manna and quail from heaven for food and bringing forth water from a rock. Despite these provisions, the Israelites often rebelled, testing Moses' patience and faith. One of the most significant moments of their journey was the construction of the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary where the Israelites could worship Allah. Detailed instructions for its construction were given to Moses, symbolizing Allah's presence among his people and reinforcing their commitment to the covenant. As they neared the Promised Land, Moses sent 12 spies to scout the land of Canaan. Upon their return, 10 of the spies reported that the land was inhabited by powerful giants, causing fear and dissent among the Israelites. Only Joshua, Yusha, and Caleb encouraged the people to trust in Allah's promise and proceed. Due to their lack of faith, Allah decreed that the current generation, except for Joshua and Caleb, would not enter the Promised Land. They would wander in the desert for 40 years until a new generation, prepared to trust in Allah, could take possession of the land. Moses himself was not permitted to enter the Promised Land due to a moment of disobedience. He was allowed to see it from a distance before he died. His leadership, marked by unwavering faith and dedication, left a profound legacy. Joshua succeeded Moses and led the Israelites into Canaan, fulfilling the promise made to their ancestors. Chapter 4. The Kingdom of David and Solomon. Following the era of the judges, the Israelites longed for a unified leadership that would provide stability and strength against their enemies. They demanded a king, and Allah granted their request by appointing Saul, Talut, as the first king of Israel. Saul's reign began with promise, but his disobedience to Allah's commands eventually led to his rejection. It was then that Allah directed the prophet Samuel to anoint David, Dawood, a young shepherd known for his bravery and piety, as the next king. David's rise to prominence began with his legendary battle against Goliath, Jalut, a formidable warrior from the Philistine army. Armed only with a sling and his unwavering faith in Allah, David defeated Goliath, an act that not only secured victory for the Israelites, but also established David's reputation as a courageous and divinely favored leader. This victory paved the way for David to gain favor among the people and ascend to the throne after Saul's death. David's reign as king was marked by justice, military success, and profound spirituality. He united the tribes of Israel and established Jerusalem as the political and spiritual center of the kingdom. David's leadership was characterized by his commitment to Allah and his pursuit of righteousness. He was not only a warrior king but also a gifted poet and musician. His psalms, Zabur, are revered for their deep spiritual insight and lyrical beauty, expressing his devotion to Allah and his reflections on life and leadership. David's governance was marked by significant achievements in establishing law and order. He organized the military, appointed capable leaders, and ensured that justice was served throughout the kingdom. His fair and equitable rule earned him the respect and loyalty of his people. David also laid the groundwork for the construction of a magnificent temple in Jerusalem, a project that symbolized the centrality of worship in the life of the Israelites. However, it was his son Solomon, Sulaiman, who would bring this vision to fruition. Solomon succeeded David and inherited a strong and prosperous kingdom. Renowned for his wisdom, which was a divine gift from Allah, Solomon's reign brought unprecedented peace and prosperity. His ability to adjudicate complex cases and his insightful decisions became legendary, epitomized by the famous judgment involving two women claiming to be the mother of the same child. Solomon proposed to divide the living child in two, a solution that revealed the true mother, who who chose to relinquish her claim to save her child's life. This story exemplifies his profound wisdom and understanding of human nature. Under Solomon's rule, the kingdom of Israel reached its zenith. He embarked on extensive building projects, including the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, which became the focal point of Israelite worship and a symbol of divine presence. The temple, built with the finest materials and craftsmanship, housed the Ark of the Covenant and served as a place for offering sacrifices and prayers to Allah. Solomon's reign also saw the expansion of trade and international relations. He established strong diplomatic ties with neighboring kingdoms, including Egypt and the Queen of Sheba's realm. These alliances were not only politically advantageous but also facilitated cultural and economic exchanges. The wealth generated from trade and tribute allowed Solomon to enhance the infrastructure of his kingdom, building roads, palaces, and fortresses. Solomon's control extended beyond human affairs to the natural world and the realm of the jinn, supernatural beings. The Quran recounts that Allah granted Solomon dominion over the wind, animals, and the jinn, enabling him to communicate with and command them. This unique ability underscored Solomon's exceptional status and the divine favor bestowed upon him. His interactions with the Queen of Sheba, who visited him to witness his wisdom and the splendor of his court, highlight his reputation and influence. Despite his many accomplishments, Solomon's later years were troubled by deviations from strict monotheism. Influenced by his foreign wives and their deities, Solomon allowed the construction of altars for idol worship. This disobedience to Allah's commandments had consequences, and after Solomon's death, the United Kingdom of Israel faced internal strife and division. The kingdom split into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. The northern kingdom quickly fell into idolatry and moral decay, leading to its eventual conquest by the Assyrians. The southern kingdom of Judah, although initially more faithful, also struggled with sin and rebellion. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel were sent to warn the people and call them back to righteousness, but their messages were often ignored. The culmination of this disobedience was the Babylonian conquest of Judah. Jerusalem was besieged, the temple was destroyed, and the Israelites were taken into captivity in Babylon. This period of exile was a time of profound reflection and repentance for the Israelites. They recognized their collective failure to uphold the covenant with Allah and sought to renew their commitment to His laws. While in exile, the Israelites maintained their identity and faith through the preservation and study of their sacred texts. Prophets like Daniel and Ezekiel continued to provide guidance and hope, emphasizing the promise of eventual restoration and return to their homeland. The exile underscored the themes of judgment and mercy, illustrating the consequences of disobedience and the enduring hope of redemption. After 70 years, the Persian Empire, under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, conquered Babylon and allowed the Israelites to return to their land. This return marked the beginning of the Second Temple period. The reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem symbolized the renewal of the covenant and the Israelites' dedication to restoring their religious practices and social structures in accordance with divine guidance. The stories of David and Solomon, despite the challenges and failures, left an enduring legacy. Their reigns highlighted the importance of faith, wisdom, justice, and the consequences of deviating from Allah's commandments. The accounts of their lives, preserved in the Quran and other scriptures, continue to inspire and instruct, emphasizing the centrality of divine guidance in leadership and governance. The legacy of David and Solomon extends beyond their reigns, influencing subsequent generations and shaping the religious and cultural identity of the Israelites. Their contributions to the development of monotheistic faith, the establishment of a just society, and the creation of monumental religious structures remain significant landmarks in the history of human civilization. In sum, the narratives of David and Solomon, with their triumphs and tribulations, offer profound lessons on leadership, faith, and the enduring impact of divine favor and human responsibility. Their stories underscore the intricate relationship between divine guidance and human action, reminding believers of the importance of adherence to Allah's will in all aspects of life. Chapter 5. Jesus and the New Covenant. In the ancient land of Palestine, during a period of Roman occupation and Jewish expectation of a promised Messiah, Allah chose to bestow a miraculous birth upon the Virgin Mary, Maryam. Mary, known for her piety and devotion, was visited by the angel Gabriel, Jibril, who announced that she would give birth to a son named Jesus, Isa. This news astonished Mary, as she was a chaste and unmarried woman. Gabriel reassured her, explaining that the birth would be a divine miracle, a sign from Allah. With Allah's decree, Mary conceived Jesus through the Holy Spirit, without a human father. Mary withdrew from her community to a remote place where she gave birth to Jesus. Fearing the reaction of her people, she was comforted by Allah, who provided for her needs. When Mary returned to her community with the newborn Jesus, the people were shocked and questioned her chastity. In response, Mary pointed to the infant Jesus, who, by Allah's will, spoke from his cradle. He declared his prophethood and his mission to bring a new revelation from Allah. This miraculous event silenced the accusers and affirmed Mary's purity and Jesus' divine mission. As Jesus grew, he exhibited profound wisdom and performed many miracles by Allah's permission. He healed the sick, restored sight to the blind, cured lepers, and even raised the dead. These miracles were signs of his prophethood and a testament to Allah's power. Jesus' teachings emphasized compassion, mercy, and the worship of one God. He called people to repentance and righteousness, challenging the hypocrisy and corruption of the religious leaders of his time. Despite his message of love and his miraculous deeds, Jesus faced opposition from the Jewish authorities and the Roman rulers. They viewed him as a threat to their power and stability. The religious leaders conspired to arrest and kill him. According to the Quran, a plot was devised to crucify Jesus, but Allah, in his wisdom, protected his prophet. It appeared to the conspirators that they had succeeded in crucifying Jesus, but in reality, Allah raised him up to himself, saving him from their evil plans. The story of Jesus does not end with his ascension. The Quran emphasizes that Jesus will return before the day of judgment to restore justice and defeat the false Messiah, the Antichrist, or Dajjal. His return will be a time of great trial and ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness. The message of Jesus, as conveyed in the Quran, highlights the continuity of divine revelation. He affirmed the teachings of the previous prophets, upheld the laws of the Torah, and brought the gospel, Injil, as a new guidance for his people. His life exemplified submission to Allah's will, humility, and unwavering faith. The followers of Jesus, known as the disciples, continued to spread his teachings after his ascension. They faced persecution but remained steadfast, spreading the message of monotheism and the new covenant. Over time, however, deviations and misunderstandings arose, leading to the formation of various sects and the eventual distortion of Jesus' original message. The doctrine of the Trinity, the deification of Jesus, and other theological innovations emerged, diverging from the pure monotheism that Jesus preached. Despite these distortions, the Quran honors Jesus as one of the greatest prophets, acknowledging his miraculous birth, his profound teachings, and his role in Allah's plan. The true followers of Jesus, who adhere to his original message of monotheism and righteousness, are promised salvation and reward in the hereafter. Chapter 6. The Final Prophet Muhammad. In the Arabian Peninsula, in the bustling city of Mecca, Allah chose Muhammad ibn Abdullah as the final prophet, the seal of the prophets. Born into the noble tribe of Quraysh, Muhammad was known for his honesty, integrity, and wisdom, earning him the titles of Al-Amin, the trustworthy, and Al-Sadiq, the truthful. Despite the prevalent idolatry and moral decay in Meccan society, Muhammad maintained a pure and contemplative nature, often retreating to the cave of Hira for meditation and reflection. At the age of 40, during one of his retreats, Muhammad experienced a profound revelation. The angel Gabriel appeared to him, bringing the first verses of the Quran. Overwhelmed by the encounter, Muhammad initially doubted his own sanity, but his wife Khadija and her cousin Waraka ibn Nawfal reassured him of his prophethood. This marked the beginning of a 23-year period of revelation, during which the Quran was revealed piecemeal, addressing various aspects of faith, law, and guidance for the Muslim community. Muhammad began his mission by calling his closest family and friends to the worship of Allah alone. Among the first converts were his wife Khadija, his cousin Ali, his friend Abu Bakr, and his servant Zaid. As the message spread, it attracted a diverse group of followers, including the poor, slaves, and marginalized members of society, who found hope and dignity in Islam's egalitarian teachings. The growing Muslim community faced fierce opposition from the Quraysh, who saw Muhammad's message as a threat to their social order and economic interests. Particularly their lucrative pilgrimage trade centered around the Kaaba, which housed numerous idols. The Quraysh subjected the early Muslims to intense persecution, including boycotts, torture, and attempts to bribe Muhammad to abandon his mission. Despite these hardships, Muhammad and his followers remained steadfast, placing their trust in Allah. The turning point came when Muhammad was invited to Yathrib, a city later known as Medina, to mediate between warring tribes. This invitation marked the Hijra, migration, in 622 CE, a pivotal event in Islamic history. The Muslim community, now known as the Ummah, established a new social order in Medina, based on the principles of justice, mutual support, and worship of Allah. Muhammad's leadership in Medina encompassed spiritual, political, and military dimensions, as he forged alliances, mediated conflicts, and defended the community against external threats. In Medina, the revelations continued, providing detailed guidance on various aspects of life, including family law, commerce, ethics, and worship. The establishment of regular prayers, fasting during Ramadan, almsgiving, zakat, and the pilgrimage to Mecca, Hajj, became foundational pillars of Islamic practice. The Quran also addressed social justice, emphasizing the protection of orphans, the rights of women, and the importance of honesty and integrity in all dealings. The Muslim community faced several significant battles against the Quraysh, including the Battle of Badr, where a small, ill-equipped Muslim force achieved a miraculous victory. The Battle of Uhud, which taught the Muslims valuable lessons about obedience and perseverance. And the Battle of the Trench, where the Muslims' strategic ingenuity and steadfast faith thwarted a massive siege. Despite the ongoing conflict, Muhammad sought to spread Islam's message of peace and monotheism through diplomacy and treaties. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah, A 10-year truce with the Quraysh allowed for peaceful propagation of Islam and laid the groundwork for the eventual conquest of Mecca. In 630 CE, Muhammad and his followers peacefully entered Mecca, where he demonstrated unparalleled mercy by forgiving his former enemies and purging the Kaaba of its idols, rededicating it to the worship of Allah alone. The final years of Muhammad's life were marked by the consolidation of Islamic teachings and the expansion of the Muslim community. His farewell pilgrimage in 632 CE was a profound event where he delivered his final sermon, emphasizing the principles of equality, justice, and the sanctity of human life. He reminded the Muslims to uphold the rights of women, to refrain from usury and blood feuds, and to adhere strictly to the Quran and his Sunnah traditions as sources of guidance. Shortly after the farewell pilgrimage, Muhammad fell ill and passed away in Medina. His death was a moment of immense sorrow for the Muslim community, but his legacy endured through the Quran, his teachings, and the exemplary lives of his companions. The Quran, meticulously preserved and memorized by his followers, remains the eternal guide for Muslims, offering wisdom, law, and spiritual insight. The immediate succession after Muhammad's death saw the appointment of Abu Bakr as the first caliph, followed by Umar, Uthman, and Ali, collectively known as the Rashidun caliphs. Their leadership was characterized by adherence to the principles of the Quran and the Sunnah, the expansion of the Islamic State, and the establishment of a just and equitable society. The rapid spread of Islam beyond the Arabian Peninsula into Persia, the Levant, and North Africa demonstrated the transformative power of Muhammad's message. The life and mission of Muhammad as the final prophet culminated the series of revelations from Allah, affirming and completing the messages brought by earlier prophets. His exemplary character, profound teachings, and enduring legacy continue to inspire and guide Muslims around the world, embodying the principles of faith, compassion, justice, and unwavering devotion to Allah. Chapter 7. The Spread of Islam. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the Muslim community faced the challenge of preserving the unity and momentum of the Islamic mission. Abu Bakr, a close companion of Muhammad, was chosen as the first caliph. His leadership was critical in stabilizing the nascent Islamic State. During his brief caliphate, Abu Bakr faced and overcame the Ridda Wars of apostasy, which were a series of rebellions by tribes that sought to break away from the Islamic State after Muhammad's death. These campaigns were vital in consolidating the Muslim community and reaffirming the central authority of the caliphate. Following Abu Bakr, Umar ibn al-Khattab became the second caliph. His tenure marked significant expansion and consolidation of the Islamic State. Umar was a formidable leader known for his administrative acumen, justice, and military strategy. Under his leadership, the Islamic State expanded rapidly. Muslim armies, driven by a combination of faith, disciplined military tactics, and effective leadership, conquered vast territories, including the Persian Empire and large parts of the Byzantine Empire. Key battles such as the Battle of Yarmouk and the Battle of Qadisiyah were instrumental in these conquests. Umar's administration introduced numerous reforms. He established the Diwan, state registry, for organizing the distribution of stipends to soldiers, created a judicial system, and appointed governors to manage the newly acquired provinces. His fair and just governance earned him respect and laid the groundwork for an organized and cohesive state. Umar's policies emphasized the protection of non-Muslims and their places of worship, ensuring that conquered peoples were treated with justice and dignity. The third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, continued the expansion and consolidation efforts. Under his rule, the Islamic Navy was established, which secured Muslim dominance in the Mediterranean. Uthman is also noted for commissioning the compilation and standardization of the Quran. This initiative ensured that the Quranic text remained uniform and protected from alterations. However, his caliphate faced internal dissent and accusations of nepotism, leading to unrest and his eventual assassination. Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin and son-in-law of Muhammad, succeeded Uthman as the fourth caliph. His caliphate was marked by internal strife and civil wars, notably the Battle of the Camel and the Battle of Siffin. These conflicts stemmed from disputes over leadership and justice within the Muslim community. Despite the turmoil, Ali's leadership emphasized piety, knowledge, and adherence to Islamic principles. His sermons and letters, compiled in the work Najul Balagha, remain a significant source of Islamic thought and philosophy. The period following Ali's assassination led to the establishment of the Umayyad Caliphate under Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. The Umayyads shifted the caliphate's capital from Medina to Damascus, introducing administrative reforms and furthering territorial expansion. The Umayyad dynasty saw the spread of Islam into North Africa, Spain, and parts of India. Despite their achievements, the Umayyad rule faced criticism for its perceived departure from the egalitarian principles of early Islam, leading to revolts and the eventual rise of the Abbasid Caliphate. The Abbasids, who overthrew the Umayyads, shifted the capital to Baghdad, marking a golden age of Islamic culture, science, and learning. The Abbasid Caliphate fostered a cosmopolitan and inclusive environment, encouraging intellectual pursuits and translation of Greek, Persian, and Indian works into Arabic. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad became a renowned center of learning, attracting scholars from various backgrounds. Advances in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy during this period had a profound impact on both the Islamic world and medieval Europe. Islamic civilization during the Abbasid era was marked by significant cultural and scientific achievements. Scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi, who made pioneering contributions to algebra, Al-Razi, a renowned physician, and Ibn al-Haytham, who laid the foundations of optics, exemplify the intellectual vitality of this period. Islamic art and architecture also flourished, characterized by intricate geometric designs, calligraphy, and monumental structures like the Great Mosque of Samarra. Despite internal conflicts and challenges, the spread of Islam continued through trade, diplomacy, and missionary efforts. Muslim merchants and traders played a crucial role in introducing Islam to regions such as Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Indian Ocean basin. These interactions facilitated the exchange of ideas, goods, and cultural practices, further enriching the Islamic world and fostering a diverse and interconnected civilization. Throughout its history, the Islamic State's governance emphasized justice, equity, and the rule of law. The concept of shura, consultation, in decision-making, the establishment of judicial institutions, and the protection of religious and minority rights were integral to Islamic governance. The integration of various cultures and traditions within the Islamic framework fostered a rich and pluralistic society. The legacy of the early Islamic expansion and the subsequent caliphates is enduring. The principles of justice, knowledge, and cultural exchange established during these periods continue to influence contemporary Muslim societies. The spread of Islam, characterized by both conquests and peaceful interactions, reflects the dynamic and adaptive nature of the Islamic civilization. Chapter 8: The End Times and Day of Judgment. The Quran and Hadith literature provide detailed descriptions of the signs and events that will precede the end of the world. and the Day of Judgment. These eschatological themes emphasize the transient nature of worldly life and the ultimate accountability of every individual before Allah. The end times, known as the hour, as-sa'ah, will be marked by both natural and moral upheavals. One of the significant signs of the end times is the appearance of the Antichrist, Al-Masih ad-Dajjal. The Dajjal will emerge as a deceiver, claiming divinity and performing false miracles to lead people astray. He will spread corruption and chaos, challenging the faith of believers. The Dajjal's reign of deception will test the steadfastness of the faithful, and his influence will be countered by the return of Jesus, Isa, who will restore justice and defeat him. The Hadiths describe Jesus descending in Damascus, leading the believers in prayer, and slaying the Dajjal, signifying the triumph of truth over falsehood. Another critical figure in Islamic eschatology is the Mahdi, a righteous leader from the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad, who will appear before the Day of Judgment to establish justice and righteousness. The Mahdi's emergence will be a time of great trial and tribulation as he confronts oppressive forces and unites the Muslim Ummah. His leadership will prepare the way for the return of Jesus and the final events leading to the Day of Judgment. Natural signs will also herald the approaching hour. These include major and minor signs, such as earthquakes, the splitting of the moon, and the rising of the sun from the west. The minor signs, which have been occurring gradually, include the widespread neglect of religious obligations, moral decay, and the prevalence of injustice. The major signs, which will occur closer to the hour, include the appearance of the beast of the earth, which will speak to people and mark the disbelievers, and the smoke that will cover the earth, causing great suffering. The Day of Judgment itself will be a momentous event, beginning with the sounding of the trumpet by the angel Israfil. The first blast will cause the death of all living beings, and the second blast will resurrect them for judgment. The earth will be transformed into a vast plain, devoid of landmarks, and all of humanity, from the first to the last, will be gathered before Allah. The Quran describes this day as one of immense fear and awe, where individuals will be concerned only with their own fate. On the Day of Judgment, the deeds of every individual will be weighed on the scales of justice. The records of deeds, inscribed by the angels, will be presented, and each person will be held accountable for their actions. Those whose good deeds outweigh their bad will be granted entry into paradise, Jannah, a place of eternal bliss, where they will enjoy the rewards of their faith and righteousness. Paradise is described in the Quran as a garden beneath which rivers flow, filled with everlasting joy, peace, and the presence of Allah. Conversely, those whose bad deeds outweigh their goodwill face punishment in hell, Jahannam, a place of torment and suffering. The Quran vividly describes the horrors of hell, with its scorching flames, boiling water, and chains of torment. The disbelievers and those who committed grave sins without repentance will face the consequences of their actions in the hereafter. Despite the dire warnings, the Quran emphasizes Allah's mercy and forgiveness. Allah promises that those who sincerely repent and seek forgiveness will be forgiven, and their sins will be replaced with good deeds. The concept of intercession is also present, where prophets, particularly Muhammad, will intercede on behalf of the believers, seeking Allah's mercy for them. The Day of Judgment underscores the importance of living a life of piety, righteousness, and adherence to Allah's guidance. It serves as a reminder of the ultimate accountability and the transient nature of worldly life. The Quran encourages believers to prepare for the hereafter by engaging in good deeds, maintaining faith, and avoiding actions that lead to Allah's displeasure. The events of the end times and the Day of Judgment are a central theme in Islamic eschatology, offering both warnings and hope. The signs of the hour, the trials of the Dajjal, the emergence of the Mahdi, and the return of Jesus are all significant events that highlight the challenges and triumphs awaiting humanity. The final judgment and the eternal destinies of paradise and hell serve as powerful motivators for believers to strive for righteousness and seek Allah's mercy. The eschatological teachings in Islam not only provide a framework for understanding the end times, but also reinforce the ethical and spiritual principles that guide Muslims in their daily lives. The anticipation of the Day of Judgment encourages a life of integrity, compassion, and unwavering faith in Allah. The ultimate goal is to attain Allah's pleasure and the eternal reward of paradise, while being ever mindful of the accountability that awaits every soul. Chapter 9. The Eternal Message. The Quran, revealed over 23 years to the Prophet Muhammad, serves as the ultimate source of guidance for Muslims. It is not merely a religious text, but a comprehensive manual for living a life that aligns with the will of Allah. The Quran addresses every aspect of human existence, from personal conduct to social justice, from spiritual development to legal principles, and from family life to economic transactions. Its timeless message continues to resonate with millions of Muslims worldwide, shaping their beliefs, practices, and interactions with the world. One of the central themes of the Quran is the oneness of Allah, Tawheed. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes that there is no deity but Allah, the creator, sustainer, and sovereign of the universe. This foundational belief in monotheism is the bedrock of Islamic faith and practice. It calls upon humans to worship Allah alone, without associating any partners with Him. The Quran refutes polytheism and idolatry, presenting compelling arguments for the existence and uniqueness of Allah. It describes His attributes of mercy, justice, wisdom, and power, fostering a deep sense of reverence and submission among believers. The Quran also outlines the purpose of human existence, which is to worship Allah and live according to His guidance. It emphasizes that life on earth is a test, and every individual will be accountable for their actions in the hereafter. The Quran encourages Muslims to seek knowledge, act justly, and strive for righteousness. It provides numerous examples of past nations and prophets, highlighting their successes and failures to teach moral and ethical lessons. The stories of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, among others, serve as powerful reminders of the consequences of obedience and disobedience to Allah. A significant aspect of the Quran's message is its call for social justice and equity. The Quran condemns all forms of oppression, injustice, and exploitation. It champions the cause of the marginalized and the oppressed, urging believers to support the poor, orphans, and those in need. The institution of zakat, almsgiving, is a practical manifestation of this principle, requiring Muslims to give a portion of their wealth to support the less fortunate. The Quran also establishes principles of economic justice, prohibiting usury, riba, and promoting fair trade and ethical business practices. The Quran's guidance extends to family life, emphasizing the importance of strong, harmonious, and compassionate relationships. It outlines the rights and responsibilities of family members, advocating for mutual respect, love, and kindness. The Quran places great emphasis on the role of parents, instructing children to honor and care for them, and simultaneously, it advises parents to provide for their children's physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. Marriage is presented as a sacred bond, and the Quran provides detailed guidance on marital rights and responsibilities, divorce, and the treatment of spouses. The Quran also addresses issues related to governance and the administration of justice. It calls for rulers to govern with justice and fairness, upholding the principles of shura, consultation, and accountability. The Quran condemns tyranny and corruption, advocating for a just and equitable society where the rule of law prevails. The hudud, fixed punishments, prescribed in the Quran serve as deterrents for serious crimes, ensuring the protection of individual rights and the maintenance of social order. However, the implementation of these laws is accompanied by stringent evidentiary standards and a strong emphasis on mercy and repentance. Spiritual development and the cultivation of a close relationship with Allah are central to the Quran's message. It encourages Muslims to engage in regular worship, including the 5 daily prayers, Salah, fasting during the month of Ramadan, Sawm, and the pilgrimage to Mecca, Hajj. These acts of worship are not mere rituals, but are designed to purify the soul, foster self-discipline, and strengthen the bond between the believer and Allah. The Quran also emphasizes the importance of personal virtues such as patience, gratitude, humility, and sincerity. It calls for constant self-reflection, repentance, and striving for moral excellence. The Quran's literary and linguistic beauty is unparalleled, captivating the hearts and minds of its readers. Its eloquent language, rhythmic verses, and profound meanings have inspired countless poets, scholars, and thinkers throughout history. The Quran's miraculous nature, as the literal word of Allah, is a testament to its divine origin. Its preservation, unchanged and unaltered over centuries, is seen as a fulfillment of Allah's promise to protect His revelation. Education and the pursuit of knowledge are highly valued in the Quran. It encourages believers to seek knowledge and wisdom, both religious and worldly, as a means to understand Allah's creation and to better serve humanity. The Quran's emphasis on learning has led to the establishment of educational institutions, libraries, and centers of learning throughout the Islamic world. The rich intellectual tradition of Islamic scholarship, encompassing fields such as theology, philosophy, science, medicine, and literature, owes much to the Quran's encouragement of intellectual and spiritual growth. The Quran's guidance is not limited to Muslims alone. It addresses all of humanity. It calls for interfaith dialogue, mutual respect, and peaceful coexistence. The Quran recognizes the diversity of human cultures and beliefs, advocating for tolerance and understanding. It acknowledges the commonalities among the Abrahamic faiths and invites people of all backgrounds to reflect on its message. The Quran's universal principles of justice, compassion, and moral integrity resonate with people across different cultures and traditions. The application of Quranic principles in daily life is facilitated by the Sunnah, traditions, of the Prophet Muhammad. His life and teachings provide a practical example of how to live according to the Quran's guidance. The Hadith literature, which records the sayings and actions of the Prophet, serves as a complementary source of guidance, elucidating the meanings of Quranic verses and offering practical solutions to various aspects of life. The Quran's impact on the world is profound and far-reaching. Its message has shaped the lives of individuals and communities, influencing legal systems, cultural practices, and societal norms. The ethical and moral framework provided by the Quran continues to guide Muslims in their personal and communal lives, fostering a sense of purpose, responsibility, and connection to the divine. In summary, the Quran's eternal message encompasses the oneness of Allah, the purpose of human existence, social justice, family values, governance, spiritual development, the pursuit of knowledge, and universal principles of peace and tolerance. Its teachings offer a comprehensive guide for living a righteous and fulfilling life, aligned with the divine will. The Quran's timeless wisdom continues to inspire and guide Muslims around the world, serving as a beacon of light in a complex and ever-changing world. The Quran remains a source of hope, strength, and guidance, inviting all of humanity to reflect on its message and to strive for a life of faith, integrity, and compassion.